How's it going, everybody? Today we are going to be working on the 4th Gen 4Runner. Super exciting. We got some brand new extended rear bump stops for the 4th Gen 4Runner here. These are from DuroBumps. You guys know that I installed the front bump stops from them probably about a few weeks ago now. I've been loving them. They've held up great, made such a good difference in my ride quality. Love them so much, I said, you know what? Let's pick up another set of bump stops. So these are for the rear. These are 4.25-inch rear extended bump stops. The part number on these is DBR425. And so where are they going to go? Well, you already guessed it. They're going to go on the rear. And so you can see just right here, I have the stock ones. There's a little mounting bracket here. It mounts to the frame. These can be notorious for rusting and getting corroded, these bolts. So we're going to probably hit them with a torch. Probably going to spray them with some sort of penetrating fluid. And we're going to work together to get those off. But if you follow along, this should not be hard. It's a pretty simple install. So we're going to do it together. But before we start, I'm just going to show you guys a really quick illustration. We're going to draw it on the board together of what these things even do and why they're necessary. All right, little crash course on bump stops. So if I were to draw a vehicle, let's just say pretty simple. Boom. This guy's got some mismatched wheels, man. I can't do anything about it. So he's running a 26 up front. He's got a 35 in the rear. Not that kosher, but to go with it. So in front, for our suspension setups, at least for the 4Runners, we got usually a coilover, so you have your shock inside your coil. Bum, 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 bum. There's your coil spring, and then inside would be the shock absorber. They work together as a unit. In the rear, pretty similar. You have a mount here. Your shock goes in there, and then on top of your axle, you have a coil. Not too hard. And then, continuing on, because there's so many more components than just that in your suspension system, for the sake of this, we need to talk about the bump stops. What would we be doing if we didn't talk about the bump stops? Well, in the front, you have your lower control arm. We're just going to draw a little control arm like this. And right about here, you have a spot that contacts the bump stop. Right about here, you have your bump stop. It's connected to the frame. I have a previous video on this if you want to check out swapping the fronts. It was a pretty simple job, but why is it important? Well, you see, when you lift your vehicle, that is, you're putting a spring that would naturally lift your vehicle, and you're putting a shock that would compensate for that as well. You're separating, or you're increasing the distance between pretty much your frame and the bottom of your suspension travel. So there's more travel. You see, on the stock suspension, bump stop, let's say control arm, sweet. Okay, all of a sudden you lift your vehicle. Let's say you put a 2 or a 3-inch lift in the front. Now you've moved this up here, your control arm's down here. You have more travel. While it looks cool, this also means there's more strain on the suspension because it's traveling farther. And so what does a bump stop do? It actually dampens the travel. And so when we put an extended bump stop in, you maintain the same amount of suspension travel in a sense, so you're not overstraining your shocks. You're not putting too much wear on them. You actually have a damper, if that makes sense. So that's how the front works. And then we have the rears. See, the rears are a little bit different. You have your frame that comes across here. Boom, boom. Then you have your axle right in here. This goes across. Just pretend. Well, you have a little thing that bolts here, 2 bolts, and then you have the spot where it contacts the axle. Same thing. Let's say we put a lift coil in the rear. It's naturally going to sit a little bit higher. That's going to increase the distance between the bump stop and the axle. Therefore, more strain on the suspension. It's going to be able to up travel more. We want to limit that, especially to nurture our components. So what do? Boom, we get a longer bump stop. That's where the DuroBump comes in. Nice little beautiful bump stop. Maintains pretty much the stock amount of travel between the bump stop and the axle. So what are we going to be doing today? We're going to be doing the rears. Hopefully this has made sense. If it hasn't, please feel free to comment. I'll try to explain a little bit better. I'm still getting over a cold here, so I might be a little bit delirious out to lunch. But for the sake of this, please note if you've lifted your vehicle that it is important to get extended bump stops because you are investing money into your vehicle and you want to make sure you have that geometry right. You want to make sure you're dampening those hard blows because you're going to have to replace your seals and your shocks. You're going to be wondering why everything's wearing out too fast if you haven't taken care of this. And so anyways, let's get right to it. All right, so first things first, I'm just going to take my jack. I'm going to put it underneath the rear pumpkin here. Going to make sure it's in a good position. Keeping the weight on the wheels because I need to crack the lug nuts first. So I'm going to take my breaker bar, 19 millimeter socket, and then put it over my wheel lock key socket. and get those broken, and then I'll lift it into the air right about there. You don't really want to lift off of the drain plug. It's just a little bit thinner there. So right off the center of the pumpkin, and taking a little bit of the weight off. So as soon as I get this, the wheels off, I'm going to actually lift it up, and then I'm going to put jack stands underneath. Never work just off your jack. Jacks fail. Jack stands are a lot more stationary. Maybe they do fail still, but they're so much safer than working under a jack. And so I'm going to take off the wheels now. I'll get to you guys once I have the wheels off and the truck supported on jacks. All right, so we got the wheel off here. We got the vehicle safely sitting on these jack stands back here. As you can see, I just got an 1.25 inch spacer on here. I got the Fox Piggies, and I got the Icon coil back here, little lift coil. Here's our factory bump stop, what we're going to be replacing it with. You tell me which one looks better. Which one would you rather wheel on? Which one would you rather hit a bump with, right? And so with that being said, it's also extended. This goes out a little bit longer. Looks like actually about 1 inch longer. And so we're going to be installing this one here. As you can see, you got 2 bolts. Best thing you can do with this is spray some penetrating fluid. Try to get in the threads underneath here, break that seal. It shouldn't be too hard. I'm probably just going to spray a little bit. I might hit them with the torch first. Try to get them a little bit loose and then get that penetrating fluid seeping in there. But yeah, this shouldn't be too bad. I'm looking forward to taking these off actually. So I'm going to get right to that, and then I'll show you guys as we go. All right, and so for this next part to take these off, it's just a 12 millimeter deep nut socket. And so to start though, what I did is I hit this with a little bit of a torch, put some liquid wrench, some penetrating fluid in there. Now I'm just waiting for it to soak a little bit. While I'm waiting for this side, I'm going to go do the same to the other side. And then we're going to slowly try to back these off, going a little bit each way. Nice and slow, because there's a really good chance they're going to break. And if that happens, you know what, so be it. We'll weld the nut on it and try again. But we're going to try to avoid that from happening. So I'm just going to let this soak for a little bit, and then I'm going to go get a deep socket and a 1/2 inch wrench here and try to get her off. All right, now that it's soaked for a little bit, I can get my little 12 mil on here on a 1/2 inch drive. Just going to take these. Oh yeah, that's coming off nice. See, if you guys haven't invested in a torch and some penetrating fluid, you are working way too hard. I need to get a new ratchet too. That's coming off nice. Gonna make sure the other side's coming off nice too. Sweet. Making sure we're not feeling any resistance, nothing's getting caught. If it does, we're just going to go back out the other way, try to work it through. But honestly, this is nice. Almost out. Whoa! Punch the camera. Man, I need to get a new ratchet. I've had this one for like 12 years here. The teeth are just getting worn down inside. Almost there. And sweet. So I'm gonna let these fall out, take the rest of the bolt out, then I'm gonna get the new one. We got some new hardware to go with, so that's exciting. And so I'm gonna go grab the new parts, and then we'll do an install on the new one. Okay, now before we install the new one, we're just gonna take a brush. You could use a wire brush, you could use whatever. I'm just gonna use my drill brush. And we're gonna clean the mounting surface of where the bump stop contacts the frame. We want that to be flush, no contaminants in there. So I'm just gonna clean this up. The top of the threads as well. And now I'm just going to get a rag, wipe it down, and then we're good to install the next piece. All right, I got the hardware here, and I also have some anti-seize. If we ever want to take these off, we want to make sure they're not seized. These can seize really easy just because you have so much dirt coming from this area. So I just put a little bit of copper anti-seize on. And now what I'm going to do is make sure the bump stop is the right way. These are labeled, don't worry. Obviously not wanting to go this way, that would make no sense. And so we're going to go this way. And I'm just going to thread these in, make sure the the washer is right here. Nice and easy to thread in. Ka-chow, ka-chow. And I'm just going to tighten those. All right, I got the bolts in there. The washers are there. They're finger tightened, so now I'm just going to take my 12 mil, same thing. We're just going to snug them up. Once they get snug, we're going to make sure we're not reefing on them. Once again, this is a stationary product, so we don't need to kill it. Just going to snug these up, and then we are good to do the other side. All right, I'm gonna finish snugging those up, but for the most part, as you can see on the vehicle, this is making a tremendous difference in visual appearance here. And so, big upgrade. I personally swear by DuroBumps. The guys have been just phenomenal to deal with. They've been so kind and so helpful when I've had questions just about how they work, the quality of their product, if it's one I should even recommend, right? I'm not going to recommend products if I don't actually believe in them. So definitely check out the DuroBumps, guys. They are excellent. Customer service to the product itself has been phenomenal. So anyways, this is going to be the end of the video. Thanks for all the support lately, guys. I want to give a special shout out to Mike, Jackson, Aiden. You guys know who you are. Thanks so much for supporting the channel all the time, for chatting with me about videos, coming up with new ideas. Appreciate you guys. Thanks everyone else who is listening along. Feel free to drop a comment if you have any tutorials you'd like to see next. I will be having an output shaft seal replacement tutorial coming soon, and I'm going to be wool waxing my frame. The guys from Wool Wax, also awesome guys. So we're going to go through that, learn how to DIY it ourselves, not paying a shop to do it. It's fairly easy. And so this is going to be the end of the video. I'm just going to tighten this up, put the tire back on, torque the wheels. But yeah, pretty darn simple, a worthwhile replacement. So anyways, guys, hope you have an awesome day. Take care.